Hello and welcome to this overview of the revisions to A2 Key and Key for Schools and B1 Preliminary and Preliminary for Schools, which take effect from January 2020. Hello, I'm John Page.
And I'm Catherine Davis.
I'm a Group Manager for A2 Key and B1 Preliminary, and I'm joined by my colleague Catherine Davis, who's an Assessment Manager for Key for Schools and Preliminary, and we'll be joined later by Jenny Mutlu Collins, who's Marketing Support Manager for Cambridge Exams Publishing. So the plan for today is to look firstly at the reasons for the revisions and then go on to look at how much each paper has changed and how the way we report results is changing as well. We'll then go on to look at exam support changes, new versions of official preparation materials, and we'll briefly mention pre-testing as well. We'll be covering a lot of information, so if you want to clarify anything at all, there will be time for questions at the end. So let's look firstly at why we're changing the exams. Well, we want to ensure the exams stay relevant to the needs of learners, and they incorporate evolving approaches to assessment and, of course, learning. We also wanted to ensure that we addressed feedback from our stakeholders and to align key and preliminary more closely to the higher level exams like first and advanced. To make the progression from one level to the next clearer and more coherent with more repetition of the same task types across different exams, as we'll see as we go through the changes. So onto the revision process. Well, it takes several years from market research until its launch. It began with market research to assess how customers around the world view the existing products and what is important for them. This includes school principals, heads of English, exam administrators, teachers, parents, and of course learners, as well as centre exam managers too. Apart from asking them, we also consulted assessment experts within Cambridge English and consultants, such as chairs of exam papers who are responsible for our content, principal examiners for the writing exams, and professional support leaders worldwide who have responsibility for the management and quality assurance of our speaking tests. So after the consultation period, draft specifications were then produced, and these specifications were then trialled with candidates, and we got further customer and expert feedback. This fed into a review of the trialling outcomes and the feedback we'd received. The specifications were then amended according to this feedback and the consultation. And then, of course, we trialled it again, and the final specifications were agreed. Production of the materials for the live tests has now started, and work on updating the support materials as well, such as sample tests, handbooks and lesson plans. So let's look firstly at what the market research told us. The data on this table you're looking at relates to feedback from teachers, heads of English and centre exam managers. Generally, as you'll see, levels of satisfaction were very high, with over 80% satisfied or very satisfied with most aspects. While there were some minor differences between Key and Key for Schools, these were not statistically significant. Moving on to preliminary, figures for preliminary and preliminary for schools were very similar. As we just saw on the previous slide, one of the areas where there seems to be more room for improvement is in the amount of preparation materials available. However, when we looked into this in more detail, it seemed that we hadn't sufficiently publicised them. So there wasn't a lack of them, we just hadn't publicised them properly. So on that note, please do take a look at our dedicated website for the revision. The link should be on your screens now. And also, why not sign up for our teachers newsletter, which you can find a link to on the main Cambridge English website. So looking at the comments we received from teachers during the market research, well, we received a lot of positive feedback, as we've said, on the exams in their current format. For example, in relation to Key for Schools, stakeholders said the exam helps to boost learners' confidence and prepares them for higher levels. The topics are appropriate for the age of the students taking the exam, that it is linked to international standards and uses real English, that the speaking test is face-to-face, and also that it helps students prove their skills in order to access further educational opportunities. Likewise, we also received some positive feedback about the current format of preliminary for schools. Teachers told us that the topics reflect learners' everyday lives and that the exam helps them to develop all 4 skills. And it's worth noting that over 90% of respondents to the survey said it was very important to assess all the 4 language skills. They also said that it helps to prepare learners for higher levels and that they enjoy the experience. That results reporting is accurate and provides clear, detailed information on candidate performance. Also that it not only motivates learners to develop their skills, but also gives them a sense of achievement and rewards them for the progress they have made. And finally, that it is recognised by universities as an accurate and reliable indication of a student's level. Of course, as part of the revision process, we were keen to keep all of these aspects to the exams that people liked. While market research showed good levels of satisfaction with the existing tests, consultation with experts identified some areas for improvement and also fine-tuning, which is reflected in the changes we have made. We'll now move on to talk about those changes. I'm going to talk you through the changes we've made to the preliminary and preliminary for schools tests. But first of all, Catherine will take you through what's happening on Key and Key for Schools. Catherine.
Hello. So I'm Catherine Davis, Assessment Manager at Cambridge English. And as John mentioned earlier, I work on the Key for Schools and preliminary papers. Before I start, just to remind you that all of the changes we're talking about today will take effect from January 2020. Now, I'll go through each of the components of Key and Key for Schools in turn. And first of all, the Key and Key for Schools reading and writing paper. Now, when we were revising the Key and Key for Schools reading and writing paper, our main aim was to make sure that there was full coverage of all of the different reading and writing skills at A2 level, while also removing any repetition or redundancy. As a result, the revised paper is 10 minutes shorter and has 7 parts and 32 questions, compared with 9 parts and 56 questions in the current test. Another aim of the revision was to make our reading tasks more authentic. Now we'll look at each of the new tasks in detail in a moment, but I'll start with a summary of all of the changes we've made in this paper. So part 1 has been revised to make it more similar to the task focus of preliminary part 1. Again, we'll look at this in more detail shortly. Part 2 is a matching task in which candidates read 3 short texts and decide which of the texts corresponds to each of the questions. It's similar to the multiple matching task that's one of the choices available in the current Part 4. And it's also similar to preliminary reading Part 3, again increasing task alignment across the levels. So Part 3 involves reading a longer text for more detailed understanding. It's similar to the 3-option multiple choice task, which, as you may know, is another of the choices available in the current Part 4. Then Part 4 in the revised exam combines current Parts 2 and 5 and is a multiple choice closed text with a lexicogrammatical focus. That's quite a mouthful. We'll look at this in more detail shortly. Part 5 is an open gap fill task with a focus on grammar, vocabulary and spelling. It's very similar to the current format Part 7, but shorter. Then moving on to Part 6, which is essentially current Part 9. This is the guided writing task. And here we've extended the word count to 25 words or more. Previously we stipulated 25 to 35. We've done this to give candidates the chance to show evidence of higher level writing skills and to facilitate upwards certification. Just to clarify what we mean by upwards certification, this is the possibility for candidates taking, for example, Key to get a certificate recognising performance at the CEFR level above. That would be B1 in this case, where they've demonstrated this. Another reason for removing the upper word limit of 35 words was so that candidates no longer need worry about counting words during the exam. And finally, we've introduced a new Part 7. Here students are asked to write a story of 35 or more words based on 3 pictures. So we'll now go on to look at each of the 3 new tasks. So these are the ones highlighted in purple in more detail. So as mentioned, the new Key Reading and Writing Part 1 is now much more similar to Part 1 in preliminary and preliminary for schools. The testing focus is the same as in the current test, so it's still about understanding the main message in a short notice or text, but each notice or text is accompanied by a 3-option multiple choice question. So instead of matching notices to sentences, as in the current test, candidates have to choose the correct answer, A, B, or C, for each notice. Moving on to Part 4, and as mentioned, this is a combination of current Parts 2 and 5, both of which are multiple choice gap fill tasks. As you may know, current Part 2 is a sentence-based task with a lexical focus, and current Part 5 requires candidates to complete gaps within a continuous piece of text and has a grammatical focus. So in the revised paper, this new part, Part 4, has a lexicogrammatical focus. So it combines the focuses of the 2 current parts. It's text rather than sentence level based. And again, like the new Part 1, it's more similar to one of the preliminary reading tasks, Part 5. And the new Part 7 story task, now this has been designed to enable candidates to demonstrate a wider range of writing skills than is currently possible, allowing us to achieve that greater alignment with the CFR. The CFR can-do descriptors for writing at A2 level indicate an ability to produce narrative text and to link ideas. So this task has been designed to give candidates the opportunity to show us an ability to do just that. A number of different free writing tasks were trialled during the revision process, and the story one was the one that worked best, allowing candidates to show us what they can do, but within the parameters and with the support of the pictures provided. It's similar to the story writing task in Flyers, but obviously aimed at older candidates. I'll now move on to talk about the changes we've made to the Key and Key for Schools listening paper. So the length remains the same, but we have made some changes to the order in which the tasks appear. We've made it so that the less complex tasks come first. We've also changed one of the tasks, and we've introduced a new task. So part 1 is the same as before. Part 2 is effectively current part 5. So parts 4 and 5 in the current test are both gap fill tasks. Part 4 has been removed to eliminate redundancy. Part 3 is a multiple choice task based on a longer listening, just as in the current test. However, while in the current test, answers consistently come from the person answering questions, the answers in the revised exam can come from either speaker. The testing focus has also changed. In the current test, the focus is on information giving, while in the new or revised part 3, we're testing understanding of feelings, opinion, and gist. The aim of this shift in testing focus is to help us achieve greater alignment with higher level papers. Again, this was one of the principal aims of the 2020 revision. Then part 4 is the new task. It's a new multiple choice task based on 5 short texts. We'll look at an example on the next slide. This one also tests feelings, opinion, and gist. Part 5 is in the current paper, but it appears as part 2 currently. So these two parts have effectively swapped places after research revealed that this task is the more complex task of the two and should therefore appear later. This is an example of the revised part 4, which is based on 5 short texts and tests feelings, opinion, and gist. I'll now move on to speaking. Now, the market research we did at the beginning of the revision process did suggest that there might be some scope for improving the Key and Key for Schools speaking part 2. So we've done our best to address this. There's been a small change to part 1. Stakeholders were happy with the current format, while part 2 is completely new. Just briefly on part 1, it has the same type of questions based on the same topics and the same testing focus as now, but we've tried to create a more conversational flow by asking questions around a common theme. So in the revised format, candidates are asked 2 or 3 questions in turn about one topic, for example, home, as you see here, and then 2 or 3 questions on a second topic. This is the new part 2. It's a collaborative task consisting of 2 phases. In part 2, phase 1, pairs of candidates or groups of 3 are invited to talk together about a topic with some pictures to help them. They're asked to say if they like each of the different activities, things, or places represented by the pictures, and to give reasons. The pictures are intended to act as prompts for candidates to relate to their own experiences of and opinions about the topic. Candidates are only expected to talk about their experiences and opinions. They're not asked to think about a situation or about the needs or opinions of someone else as they do at preliminary. So that's phase 1. In phase 2, which you can see at the bottom of the screen, the interlocutor extends the discussion by asking questions on the same theme to candidates in turn. So this new part 2 was trialled extensively across 6 countries, involving over 120 candidates. Speaking examiners were invited to feed back on the new task, and they were overwhelmingly positive in their response. In part 2, in the current test, candidates are restricted in the language they're prompted to produce. The very nature of the task, asking and answering questions based on the prompts given, limits the scope and extent of their responses. This new task, the new part 2, gives candidates a lot more freedom to talk about themselves and to say a lot more. Speaking examiners agreed that the new task better supports classroom practice by exposing candidates to a broader range of language. It also places more emphasis on spoken fluency rather than on accuracy, as in the current format. And it provides for a much more meaningful, authentic, and personalised interaction between candidates. I'll now hand you back to John, who will take you through the changes we've made to preliminary and preliminary for schools.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, I'll be talking about the changes to preliminary and preliminary for schools. One of the most noticeable changes is that the reading and writing papers have been separated, as it's currently rather a long paper as it stands. The revised reading paper has 6 parts and takes just 45 minutes. 5 of the 6 parts are similar in format to Key or Key for Schools tasks, and 5 of the 6 parts are similar in format to First or First for Schools tasks, which brings better alignment across all our exams. So part 1 in the reading paper is unchanged. It's understanding 5 very short texts, such as signs, labels, emails, and so on. Part 2 is also unchanged. In this matching task, candidates read 5 descriptions of people and match each person to a text. This involves reading for specific information. Moving on to part 3. Part 3 is the same as part 4 in the current exam and involves reading a longer text for detailed understanding with 5 4-option multiple choice questions. Part 4 is completely new and is a gapped text task. Sentences have been removed from a text and candidates have to decide which sentence should go in which gap. This assesses reading for gist and understanding text structure, such as coherence and cohesion. We'll go on to look at an example on the next slide. Part 5 is also unchanged, a multiple choice gap fill task which focuses mainly on vocabulary, but with 6 questions compared to 10 which there are in the current format. Part 6 is a new open gap fill task. Candidates read for detailed understanding at word and sentence level, filling in 6 gaps in a text. This predominantly focuses on grammar and aligns preliminary with all our other exams. So let's now have a look at the 2 new tasks in the reading paper. So the first one's part 4. This new task is similar to one you might have seen in the B2 first exam. Trialling has shown it would also work well at B1 level. In this task, there are 5 gaps and candidates have to choose which sentence should go in which gap. There are 3 distractors As you can see on the right-hand side, there are 5 gaps in the text, but 8 sentences. Part 6, the other new task, is an open gap fill task, bringing, as we said, preliminary into line with key and with first. So let's now move on to the writing paper, which, as we said, is now a separate paper. Part 1 of the writing paper is a new email task. We'll have a look at an example on one of the next slides. Part 2 is the same as the current writing part 3, but students can choose between a story or an article, rather than between a story and a letter in the current paper. This, we believe, makes the test more relevant to today's learners, broadening the range of writing skills that we're testing, and achieving alignment again with first, and ensuring there is less overlap with the email task, which we already described in part 1. What has changed as well is the output. The output, that the amount candidates are expected to write, has been raised from approximately 150 words to 200 words, around 100 words per task. And now there is more opportunity for strong candidates or students to demonstrate a wider range of writing skills. So let's look at the new part 1. In the current communicative message task, candidates write 35 to 45 words, but in the revised format, they have to write an email of about 100 words. This, as we said, gives stronger candidates the opportunity to demonstrate the full extent of their writing skills. The slide that you're looking at shows tasks from both preliminary and preliminary for schools. The task is the same, but of course the topics will vary. So in the new part 2, candidates have a choice between an article, rather than a letter, or a story. An article is suitable for eliciting language functions appropriate to B1 level. All candidates can write about their feelings and their opinions on a subject that's familiar to them, while stronger candidates, as we said, can write something perhaps more elaborate. Just please note that the term article does not imply this is something that would go in an adult newspaper like the Times. We're just looking for things that could appear in something like a school magazine, such as a review for a film. So don't worry unduly about the level of this question. It's the kind of thing that appears in most course books at B1 level. So that's reading and writing dealt with. Let's look at the listening paper. It remains the same in length. One task has been changed though, and the order has been revised so tasks get gradually more complex. Part 1 is unchanged. Candidates listen to 7 short audio recordings and choose the right picture. Part 2 is a new task. Candidates listen to 6 short audios and choose the right answer. We will look at an example of this on the next slide. Part 3 is unchanged. Candidates listen to a longer audio this time and fill in the missing information. Also unchanged is part 4. It's the same as the current part 2. So we've moved part 2 from the current paper to part 4 in the revised listening paper. In that part, candidates listen to a longer text for detailed understanding and then choose the right answer. So let's look at the new task, which is, as we said, is part 2. It's similar to first listening part 1 and also key listening part 4. In this task, candidates listen to 6 short recordings and answer a 3-option multiple choice question in relation to each of those recordings. The testing focus is on understanding gist and identifying opinions and attitudes in those recordings. So, last but by no means least, the speaking paper is very similar to the current format, but there are some minor changes that make it more similar to first speaking. So in part 1, that's remained unchanged. The introductory phase, in which there's a short conversation between the interlocutor and each candidate, of course. Moving on to part 2, in this part each candidate talks about a different photo. The two photos are not thematically linked to each other as they are in the current exam though. In part 3, it's the same as the current part 2, the collaborative task. And moving on to part 4, it's similar to the current part 4, but is now thematically linked to the collaborative task in part 3, and not to the photo as it is in the current format, which makes it flow much more naturally as a conversation. This is what we saw from the trialling that we did. There is a three-way discussion in which the interlocutor and the candidates talk about preferences, habits and opinions in relation to the topic. Okay, moving on to the word lists for the revisions. Word list changes are minimal and mainly reflect changes in technology and words that we're used to using more commonly these days. See, for example, words related to entertainment and media from the preliminary word list, which you can see on your screens. And there's a number of new words, such as app, podcast, and selfie. The new word lists are available on our website, dedicated to the revision. So that's the content. Now we'll just talk briefly about how results reporting is changing. The main change to the way results are being reported is that from January 2020, candidates taking key or preliminary will get an A, B or C grade, rather than the current distinction, merit or pass. This brings key for schools, preliminary and preliminary for schools into line with first, advanced and proficiency, which also have grades of A, B and C. So for key and key for schools, candidates will get separate scores for reading and writing rather than a combined score as they do now. So, to sum up the changes, Catherine.
Okay, so the revised exams, we believe, give candidates the opportunity to demonstrate a wider range of speaking and writing skills more fully, allowing them to show evidence of their ability at the next CEFR level and to be recognised for this. The preliminary reading and writing components have been split into 2 separate papers. This has enabled us to extend the writing paper to give candidates the chance to fully demonstrate those skills. At Key, we've struck a better balance between reading and writing by removing an element of repetition and redundancy within the reading tasks, which, as with preliminary, gives candidates more time for the writing tasks. In the Key speaking paper, we've increased the focus on spoken fluency and interactive communication, which we believe will have positive washback effects on learning in the classroom. Changes across all papers have been aimed at increasing task alignment across the levels, so that skills candidates develop in preparation for one exam will stand them in good stead as they prepare for the next level up. We've also ensured greater alignment with higher levels by awarding performance at grades A, B and C. Finally, while we have updated the word lists to reflect changes in technology and lifestyle, these changes are minor. Now, Now, before we look at support materials, the next section, if anything is unclear, please send us a question by typing it into the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer it during the Q&A section towards the end. Okay, so let's now look at exam support. So postcards outlining the changes to both exams, such as this, are now available along with a video. The first sample papers, online versions of the handbooks for teachers and word lists are also now available. They're on the website we've launched to support the revised exams. We'll be adding new materials to the site over the coming months, so do visit it regularly. There's a lot more support in the pipeline, including that outlined here. Write and Improve is a tool to help learners improve their writing. So this is at writeandimprove.com. And basically it auto marks written work and gives immediate feedback for improvements. Learners can then make changes to their drafts and check again. There's a wide range of support available on our website, which is cambridgeenglish.org, to help teachers and students prepare for the exams and to help parents support their children in learning English. We'll look at just a few examples as we go through the skills, but you can find much more on the website. Pen Friends, for example, is a free service to match schools so that your students can write to students in a school in another country with a real purpose for communication. All of the existing support will still be available. So some things you might know about, learning activities on cambridgeenglish.org, like the Virtually Anywhere audio series at B1, B2 level. Write and Improve, as we saw, Pen Friends, and there's also Facebook for learners aged 13 plus. I'll now hand over to Jenny, Marketing Support Manager for Cambridge Exams Publishing.
So now we'll take a look at the official materials we have available to help teachers and students prepare for the revised exams. Alongside the exam changes, Cambridge Exams Publishing is undergoing a rebrand. Our new branding will appear on all new materials from 2019 onwards. This is the branding you will have seen on all of the official preparation materials if you're using them. 2 organisational logos and the official preparation material stamp. As you know, we are now at Cambridge Assessment English, and this is the reason why we're rebranding our materials at this time. We consulted extensively with teachers and students, over 15 focus groups globally, and we hope that you like the final results. Here it is on the cover of one of our forthcoming titles, Prepare. You will see that we have top left, the Shield Cambridge logo. Top right, we have a new official Cambridge exam preparation logo. And on the back cover, you can see the logos of the 2 organisations, Cambridge University Press and Cambridge Assessment English. Together, along with you, the teachers, we are experts together. Here is our new promise to you, the customers. Experts together. Our aim is to deliver the materials you tell us you need. Exclusive insights from test development and candidate performance guarantee expert content. The result is a unique exam journey in each course, ensuring every student is ready on exam day. From skill development to exam tasks, language discovery to real-world usage, we create better learning experiences together. We have 5 new courses which prepare students for the revised A2 Key and Key for Schools exams. Power Up is a 6-level primary course, level 5 of which provides preparation for Key for Schools. Prepare is a 7-level course for teens which combines general English and stealth exam preparation. Levels 2 and 3 of this course provide gradual preparation towards Key for Schools. Complete you may be familiar with. This is the most thorough and integrated exam preparation course from Cambridge Exams Publishing. This new edition has been revised for the new exams and features a great new look and feel. Compact is a short, intensive exam preparation course which focuses on exam preparation but expects students to be already at the target language level. And finally, we have a brand new exam series, Open World, which provides preparation for A2 Key, not for schools. Open World takes students further, providing opportunities to prepare for speaking English in real-world situations and to go beyond the level of the exam. With Open World, although the published date is April 19, sample previews will be available from January. For A2 Key and Key for Schools, there are brand new sets of authentic practice tests, as well as a trainer for Key for Schools. For B1 Preliminary and Preliminary for Schools, we have a grand total of 6 new courses. Power Up Level 6 provides preparation for Preliminary for Schools. Prepare Levels 4 and 5 provide teens with general English, and that's stealth exam preparation, which becomes more overt in Level 5. Complete New Edition features a great new look and feel inside and out, with thorough preparation for both Preliminary and Preliminary for Schools. Complete Preliminary for Schools is a brand new course not available for this exam level before. Compact offers short, intensive exam preparation for Preliminary for Schools. And as with Key, we have a brand new exams course, Open World Preliminary, providing opportunities to prepare for speaking English in real-world situations and to go beyond the level of the exam. And again, for B1 Preliminary and Preliminary for Schools, we have a brand new set of authentic practice tests, as well as a trainer for Preliminary for Schools. So now I'll pass you back to John.
Hi again. Another valuable resource that you may be interested in using in your classrooms is pre-testing. We pre-test our exams to ensure that they are fair and at the appropriate difficulty level, and so we invite students around the world to take part in free trials of exam material in simulated exam conditions. So pre-testing is a great way to prepare your students for the exam day by allowing them to take genuine Cambridge English exam questions under test conditions. This gives them confidence when taking their exam and helps them know which areas they need more practice in. If you'd like to find out more about how your school can get involved in pre-testing for the revised exams or any exam, visit our website and fill in the registration form you'll find there. There's a very small link on your screens. I hope you can see it. If you can't, then we will send it to you after the webinar. But the email address for pre-testing is pretesting@cambridgeenglish.org. So you've heard about all the resources available and about the changes we've made, and we've spoken a lot here now. I would like to give you the chance to ask us any questions, and many of you already have, about the changes we've made. My favourite question is, why have you made the changes if all the feedback was so positive? That's a very good question. We haven't changed a great deal because, as you quite rightly say, a lot of the feedback was positive from the market. But as part of our commitment to quality, we revise our exams periodically to make sure they meet the needs of everyone who uses our exam, including the examiners and the teachers and the learners. And so we fine-tuned a couple of tasks to give candidates the best possible opportunity to demonstrate their skills and to make sure that the communicative things that candidates are doing in the exams reflect what they need to do in real life, especially in speaking, as we outlined with the new collaborative task for Key. Have you got any questions, Catherine?
Yeah, people are asking about sample papers. These are now available on the website, which I think is on your screens. You can see the address there at the bottom, keyandpreliminary.cambridgeenglish.org. So this is the website that we've created that's dedicated to the revision of Key and Preliminary. And if you go there, you can access online copies of the handbooks, the revised word lists, and also sample papers for each of the components across both levels. So there are sample papers. I know a lot of you are concerned that that's the best way to explain the changes to your students, and I would agree. So do have a look at our website.
Yeah, likewise, there's a question about how can we tell if our students are doing well in the new task types? Well, the answer is to make use of all the support materials that we've outlined, including pre-testing, and they will help give your candidates, or your students, feedback on how they're doing with the new task types. But they have been thoroughly trialled, and as we mentioned, they will and have been pre-tested to make sure that they're of quality and suitable for the level.
Yeah. We've got a question. Pre-testing is great. We think so. Is it going to be in the new format?
Yes, it will be. Pre-testing henceforth will be to reflect the content of the revised exams. So if you get involved with pre-testing, then yeah, you'll have the opportunity to give your students practice with the revised papers. Great way to prepare, as are all the materials that we've presented. And yeah, there was a question about, will all the new materials reflect the changes in terms of the course books and things? Of course, yeah. So as part of the revision process, we have to let publishers know 2 years in advance of what changes are going to be, so that they can prepare sufficient support materials.
I've had questions about the upper word limit in the Key and Key for Schools writing paper. So for part 6, it's 25 words or more, whereas previously it's 25 to 35. So you're right, no upper word limit. And for the new story task, it's 35 words or more. So again, no upper word limit. And this is about enabling that upward certification so that we're not stopping candidates from demonstrating their skills as fully as they are able to. So that if they demonstrate skills at the next level, we can reflect that in our feedback and in our reporting. This isn't to say that we've made anything more difficult. The difficulty level remains stable. It's exactly the same as now. It's just we're giving candidates the scope to really show their level, wherever their level might be.
Yeah, there's also a few questions along those lines for what the pass mark is for the papers, whether it seems to be urban myth that it's 70%. Our exams are based on criteria for the Common European Framework, so they're based on that criteria, not a sort of blanket pass mark per se, but there's full information on how the Cambridge English Scale works on our website. Related to that, there was a question regarding upward certification. Yes, if you say, for example, in Key, I got a B1 result, then yes, that would be on the certificate and be totally valid. It's not an indication of ability, it certifies you at that level. In all cases for upward certification. So if you're interested in calculating how to see what the pass marks are, or what score you need to pass in particular places, then have a look at the Cambridge English Scale information on the website.
Yeah, and just to mention that for Key and Key for Schools, the assessment scales for speaking will not change. The assessment scales for writing will change with the introduction of the new story task. That's something somebody's been asking about.
I have a few questions here about preparation materials. There seem to be a few questions about what courses we have for B1 for adults, so not the for schools versions. We do have the complete preliminary, which provides preparation for adults, and also our new course, Open World B1 Preliminary, is going to provide an alternative for that, for the adult version of the exam. There's also a question about Objective. We're not actually producing new editions of Objective for the key and preliminary exams, but we really hope that you will like the new edition of Complete, and of course our brand new course Open World, which does have some of the features from Objective that you teachers have said that you really liked. So we hope you'll take a look at that and see if that will be the next course for you. There's some questions about Prepare. Will there be any changes to it? Well, in addition to the fact that we've updated Prepare for the new exams, all of those exam tasks have been updated. We've also taken the opportunity to revise it and improve it, and we really hope you'll like the result. It looks really nice. There are some life skills sections in there which are completely new. Lots of videos that are new, bright and colourful, and we think you'll find it easier to use. So please do take a look at that. Most of our courses, so Prepare, Complete and Compact, will be available from January, which gives you a full year ahead of the new exams. Open World is publishing in April, and the trainers are also publishing in April, and practice tests will be available from August.
Okay, there's quite a few questions about marking writing and some of the scales. The handbook's available on the website?
Yeah, so key writing scales will change with the introduction of the story task. Key speaking scales are not changing. Preliminary speaking scales are not changing. And preliminary writing scales aren't changing.
Okay, thanks. I think that's more or less covered most of the questions we've had. But I think maybe as well that's all we've got time for, I'm being told. So don't forget, if you would like to know more about the revised exams, there's plenty of resources that we've indicated to you today, including the dedicated website. And you should find all the information there you need. And we hope you found today useful in helping your students prepare for the revised exams. And thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.